over 1 million of international alumni of Russian Soviet universities are working in over 160 countries all over the world. Most of them are high-profile political officers in their homeland. Political officers and social activists, diplomats, scientists, they all used to be students once. After the Second World War, the Soviet Union started inviting international students from countries of Eastern Europe, Asia, and later Africa, South America, and Western Europe to study at its universities. Very soon, the fundamental character of the Soviet education became well known all over the world. In 1954, pre-university courses were organized at Moscow State University for new international students to learn the Russian language before taking a university course. Very soon, every university that accepted international students was to organize such courses. In 1960, the number of international students in Russia increased several times. First of all, that happened due to the establishment of Patrice Lumumba Friendship University. Today, the People's Friendship University of Russia is a leading Russian university in the sphere of international education.
Это университет, который нам, всем студентам,
It was this very university that granted us, its students, a chance of socializing with the Russian people and people from other countries in the Russian language. I believe it broadened our minds and changed our views of the world, the cultures of other countries and nationalities.
национальностей других государств.
A system of education for international students was worked out in the Soviet educational system for several decades. The help of the USSR in training human resources for other countries became one of the most crucial factors stimulating rapid economic and cultural development in a number of developing countries. Studying in the USSR and Russia gave us a chance to participate in the social, political, and economic life of our countries. Moscow has always been uniting students from different parts of the world. To respect a person, regardless of his or her skin color, eye shape, or religion, is a great thing to learn. It is not something that is being taught at any university, but it is the years of studies in the most international country in the world, in Russia, that gives you this gift. Now it's time for the world to unite and become one big family. You know, when we started at university, we were also like an international family. Returning home, many of international alumni of Soviet and Russian universities become successful political leaders, scientists, businessmen, diplomats. It is the level of alumni's education that speaks about the prestige of a university. Professional skills that I developed during the years of my study are of great help even today. I still keep on working within the field of my studies. What I want? Well, how to explain it? The purpose is to attract more young people, to make them interested in the country, the culture and the Russian language. Those were very exciting days, and today we remember them with great gratitude for having had a chance to become highly qualified professionals. University does not only educate, but it gives you a chance to make good friends and even to find your love. Not only education did I get in Russia, but also a wife as a present from Russia. We've been through many things together then, and we would like to meet up again with our old friends and remember our good old days. Russia was our mother. Our teachers, tutors did an excellent job educating us. The First World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities was first held in 2003 on the initiative of the International Alumni and the order of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. It served as the best proof to show the eagerness of numerous international associations and social organizations to preserve and develop relations with Russian universities, providing further promotion of the Russian language in the world and developing relationships with Russia.
ваших странах вас ценят, вас ждут от вас результатов.
At home, you are highly appreciated. People want to see your achievements. They are very proud of you. And so we are in Russia. But here, in Russia, you are treated in a very special way. The way your friends and your teachers treat you, it differs, because student life is different. You are one family, and that is why here, in Russia, people love you because of the way you are. You are always more than welcome in this country.
Вас любят как родных. Вы здесь желанные гости всегда.
In 2007, the Second World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities was held in Russia, which proved that it had become a good tradition. The main goal of the forum is to re-establish communication with the alumni of Russian and Soviet universities and to keep in contact afterwards. Most of you have achieved great success in politics, succeeded in business, established School of Sciences, developed different fields of studies in your countries. We sincerely appreciate your desire to keep friendly relationships with the alma mater and our country. Half-century of hard work of the Soviet and Russian higher school resulted in the Third World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities that was held in Moscow in November 28-30, 2012. The organizing committee consisted of the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation in assistance with the People's Friendship University of Russia and Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Federal Agency Россотрудничества, International Coordinating Council, Inkorvus, Ruski Mir Foundation. The main goal of the forum remained the same, that is, to support the image of Russia as one of the major educational centers attracting international students to study in Russia and help preserve communication among the alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions. There were over 1,000 delegates from over 140 countries participating in the forum. Among them, you could find representatives of national alliances of international alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions, and members of Russian ministries, government agencies, and social organizations, representatives from different universities in Russia, foreign embassies, and major companies. The rector of the People's Friendship University of Russia, Vladimir Filipov, opened the session of the Third World Forum. Dear participants of the Forum, World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities is traditionally organized by the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation. Let me give the floor to the Minister of Education and Science of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Viktorovich Livanov.
Уважаемые друзья, коллеги, выпускники российских и советских высших учебных заведений, от имени Министерства образования и науки России.
Dear friends, colleagues, graduates of Russian Soviet universities, on the part of the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation, I would like to welcome you today here in Moscow. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank you for receiving the invitation and coming to Moscow, for keeping in contact with the country where you received your education, the universities where you studied. We do sincerely appreciate all that. We hope you will enjoy the forum. We would like to give the floor to the person who held the Second World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities, the former Minister of Education and Science of the Russian Federation, advisor to the President of the Russian Federation, Andrei Alexandrovich Fursenko. Participants and guests of the Third World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities, I would like to welcome the participants of the forum and its guests. Your visit to Moscow shows how important the student years spent in our country are to you. It speaks about your deep attachment to your professors, fellow students, universities, and to Russia, where you're always welcome. I'm sure that the forum is destined to be bright and memorable, which will give a start to new ideas and provoke initiatives. We would like to wish you successful and fruitful work. Vladimir Putin. Viktor Sadovnichi, chairman of the board of rectors, the rector of the Moscow State University, giving a friendly greeting to the participants of the forum. We all came to Moscow from different countries, but what we have in common is the cultural and intellectual luggage that we received at Russian and Soviet institutions. And it is great that we can speak the same language of life and of science. Deputy of the Majlis Parliament of Kazakhstan, Satibaldi Ibragimov, also expressed his warm greetings to the participants of the forum. I would like to wish to all the guests, all the colleagues who are present here today, great health, success in the development of your countries, for you to work for the good of your country and for the people to prosper. I have already met 2 of my professors, and I would like to ask them to tell all the rest of our professors that we always remember them and will always do. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your attention. The speakers noted the importance of the forum since more opportunities had been provided for developing further partnership with the alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions and helping the alumni practice the Russian language and promote the culture of Russia. The president of the Association of the African Students of People's Friendship University of Russia, Joshua Orabi, presented a speech on the part of the present-day international students and postgraduate students who do their studies at institutions in Russia. Dear friends, distinguished guests, it's a great honor for me to present a speech today. A great honor to stand here in front of you and thus reminding you the way you have once been.
Давайте будем поддерживать.
Let us support each other, support those who haven't yet graduated. We know that Mother Russia would be happy to see us happy and successful. Viva people's friendship! Viva alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions! Thank you very much for your attention.
Выпускники российских, советских вузов. Спасибо за внимание.
The first day of the Third World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities ended with a gala concert. Students of the People's Friendship University of Russia were greeting the guests with the Russian folk dances, rhythms of Hot Africa, Latin America, Oriental and modern music. The audience expressed its admiration with thunderous ovation. It reminded them the days of their youth, the days of their student life. On the second day, there were round-table discussions at People's Friendship University of Russia. The choice of the place seems reasonable, since it is the People's Friendship University of Russia that accepts thousands of international students from all over the world every year. The main topics discussed then were the spread of the Russian language and the Russian culture in the world, experience in educational program implementation, outlining the key points of interest in order to establish international partnership. The participants of the forum noticed that it's excellent grounds for developing economic partnership between the countries. Nowadays, we are actively developing relationships with the Russian institution, cooperating with other countries, with different institutions, send our students to have the language practice and open the Russian Center in Nish. All the alumni who once studied in Moscow are obliged to develop partnership between Russia and China. Special attention was paid to the question of cultural maintenance in the times of globalization. I believe that culture is the national treasure and no globalization shall influence it. Status of the international students studying in Russia was discussed on the third day of the forum. Members of public organizations, staff members of the educational institutions of the Russian Federation and partner countries dwelled upon the issues that future and current students and graduates come across. The roundtable discussions proved that education provided in Russia is highly in demand all over the world. The main topics that were discussed were the recognition of Soviet and Russian diplomas, increasing quotas for international students, educating highly qualified experts for different countries. We do understand that nowadays universities compete for students. The better university it is, the higher is the rank of the institution, the more people from all over the world will be eager to study there. That's why, if we want to attract more international students to our university, we need to improve our potentials, educational and scientific potential of our institutions. We just need to work hard to make international students feel at ease. We always need to maintain the present-day high level of education. The final day of the forum was devoted to outlining the results of 3 days' hard work. The delegates highly appreciated the role of the Russian educational institutions in carrying out training of highly qualified experts from all over the world. The education we got in the Soviet Union later gave us the best possible quality of life. Resolution draft was presented in the main final paper, that is, the address of the alumni of Russian Soviet universities to the international community. Address of the participants of the Third World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities, Moscow, November 28-30, 2012. We, the participants of the Third World Forum of International Alumni of Russian Soviet Universities, representatives of 137 countries, have gathered for a meeting which has become a good tradition in Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation. We highly appreciate the great contribution of the Russian institutions, its professor and its academic staff in training highly qualified experts for other countries, realizing that hard work of alumni is aimed at strengthening relationships between Russia and other countries and enriching the cultural and spiritual values. We propose to preserve and strengthen relationships with the Russian institutions, to participate in scientific, educational, cultural programs originated by the alma mater in the Russian Federation and other countries, to stimulate active participation of alumni and their national organizations in the events aimed at stabilizing and developing trade and economic relations between their countries and the Russian Federation, to help the Russian enrollment agencies and foreign educational institutions in choosing talented young people in different countries and providing education in Russia, to take an active part in the events aimed at promoting Russian language and culture teaching and learning in different countries, facilitating formation of international contracts and agreements on mutual recognition of diplomas and qualifications.
Перед форумом стояли, наверное, две основные задачи. С одной стороны, это...
The forum had two main goals. On the one hand, on the part of the Russian Federation, it is to demonstrate to our alumni that we are ready to listen to their opinions and their proposals on further cooperation, that we are ready to accept more international students to study in Russia. We are ready to listen to their proposals on how to improve this procedure and conditions of their stay in the Russian Federation.
Прислушаться к их мнениям, как улучшить этот прием, улучшить условия пребывания студентов в Российской Федерации.
On the other hand, the second goal concerns the alumni. To be more exact, it is to help the Alumni Association and the alumni to maintain close ties with the Russian institutions, its universities. During the whole year, great work has been done in assistance with the alumni associations to prepare for the forum. Many of them organize their own local forums. For example, Forum of Arab Alumni, Latin American Alumni Forum, etc.
Латиноамериканских стран выпускников и так далее. И поэтому
Thus, this is not only about nostalgia that people work hard, but they did their best trying to be heard and came up with many interesting proposals. I believe that both parties want to be heard. Besides the great mood and nostalgia that everyone was having, self-sufficiency became the main motto that carried on the discussions and debates at the forum.
Помимо, конечно, прекрасного настроения, помимо ностальгии о хороших годах, и я думаю, что...
The forum has ended, but it has outlined main main tendencies of development and the basic things to work on in the near future. We are sure that the Third World Forum will give a new impulse and incentive for further cooperation between the Russian universities and our alumni.
Российскими университетами и нашими выпускниками.
Today, the alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions play a great role in the formation of democratic principles in the world. Global issues can be solved only through international cooperation. Cooperation between Russia and other countries can be achieved by means of forums, congresses and global conferences.
Вы посмотрите, как светятся глаза людей, которые увидели.
Take a look into the happy eyes of people who have met each other again after so many years. The goal is unique: to restore the ties. These ties are the love of Russia, our friends. It is our common economics.
Это наша совместная экономика.
In their countries, the international alumni of Russian and Soviet institutions hold senior positions in educational institutions, ministries and authorities, whereas here in Russia, in Moscow, at the forum, they're students again. It's the third time that the forum gathers friends and colleagues from all over the world in Moscow. Alumni have traveled thousands of miles to come and to remember those wonderful years. Each of us is an ambassador of Russia, a non-official ambassador, but a highly honored one. Those were the best years in my life. That's why I'm always happy to come back to Russia. Russia is my second motherland, and the Russians are my family. It's our second mother tongue. It is my second motherland. Russian character hasn't changed. I like it very much. 3 days of socializing and recollections, tears in the eyes, sincere smiles, tight hugs. Fellow students from Asia, Africa, Latin America, Middle East, Europe, Russia, Moscow, the Soviet Union have united them. Even if you can't take those years back, you can never forget the days of your student life. You can't forget the days of your youth, the Russian language and the favorite song.
Не слышны в саду даже шорохи. Все здесь замерло до утра. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера. Речка движется и не движется, вся из лунного серебра. Песня слышится и не слышится в эти тихие вечера. Песня слышится.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for everything.